Today I will explain about Java database connectivity, that is JDBC type 1 driver. So the basic purpose of the JDBC driver is to translate the Java related calls to the database related calls and database related calls to the Java related calls. Because Java is holding a different syntax and your database is also holding a different language to understand. So both are incompatible to each other. Then there is a requirement of the middleware or the mediator, which can translate the Java calls to database and database back to Java. So we take the help of the JDBC driver, which is used for translation and make the incompatible systems to be compatible. Now in that we have some types of JDBC driver. We have type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. Now in this lecture we will see type 1 JDBC driver, and the name of the type 1 JDBC driver is JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver. Now the type 1 driver acts as a bridge between JDBC and other database connectivity mechanisms like Open Database Connectivity. ODBC stands for Open Database Connectivity. So bridge implies the mediator between a Java application which is using the JDBC API and it is communicating with the backend, that is a database. So here the specific thing what we need to highlight is the system need to the database and we need to have one ODBC driver already installed. So such database only we are able to connect with the Java application. An example of this type of driver is this Sun Microsystems JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver, which provides access to the database through the Open Database Connectivity drivers. So that's what I was saying. Whatever the database you are trying to choose, and if it holds the ODBC drivers at the database end, then your JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver can communicate with such databases. This driver also helps the Java programmers to use JDBC API and develop Java applications to communicate with existing data sources. So data sources is nothing but your database, or we call it as data stores. So the Java programmers use a JDBC API and develop Java applications to communicate with the existing databases. Now this driver is included within the Java 2 version standard development kit within the sun.jdbc.odbc.odbc's package. So there is a class called JDBC-ODBC driver. Now that is available in ODBC subpackage. ODBC subpackage for JDBC, JDBC subpackage for the Sun. Now this particular driver is considered as a default driver. So whenever you install the JDK, that is Java Development Kit software, the JDBC-ODBC driver class is getting already and automatically installed in your system. So that is why it is called as default driver. Now if you see the architecture of JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver, which is nothing but type 1 driver, here we are writing a Java program that is nothing but a Java application. Now by using this JDBC API, in the API we do have some class and interfaces. By using that I am developing a Java application which holds the connectivity of database connection. So here, since we are using JDBC API, we are trying to make a call, that is JDBC call from the Java end, and that request is passed to the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver, that is type 1 driver. Now this type 1 driver is going to translate the JDBC call to the native ODBC call. So this native ODBC call will be understood by the ODBC driver, and now this is a generalized call what they are trying to make. And this has been using the ODBC API, like such class and interface have been taken for translation. So apart from Java language, what all other languages are available are considered as a native language. So here the ODBC drivers are been developed by C and C++. So those languages are called as the native languages. So the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver is converting JDBC call to the general ODBC call. Now this ODBC driver is accepting that call, and this ODBC driver need to decide which database it need to connect. It should connect to Oracle, or it should connect to SQL Server, or it should connect to Sybase. So you have a different underlying databases which are connecting with the ODBC driver. So in the Java application, we clearly mention which type of database you want to connect at the time of loading drivers, as well as a second step connection establishment. We clearly mention what type of database you want to connect. So this ODBC driver, by seeing that, it need to just take the help of the service provider API of the database to which they are connecting. Suppose they are connecting Oracle, there is an service provider API for Oracle. So it need to apply that and generate a native DBMS, that is database management system specific call. Now why we are saying specific is because we have so many databases here, and apart from this, in the real time we do have the other kind of databases. So the ODBC driver need to convert the native ODBC call to the native DBMS specific call. Now suppose my request was for the SQL server, you need to convert into its equivalent request by using the service provider API of SQL server only. Suppose they are asking for Sybase, you need to use this API, service provider API of Sybase, and you need to communicate with the Sybase. So ultimately you have so many backend, that means backend database here. You are writing a Java application. Now Java application to database communication, or the message pass, or the query you need to execute. So these are the levels what you need to cross in between. Now coming to the explanation of the previous diagram, here we have some steps. Now the Java application makes the JDBC call to the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver to access a data store. This is the first step, what I was explaining. Then the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver resolves the JDBC call and makes an equivalent ODBC call to the ODBC driver. So I was saying, native ODBC call, which is generalized call, is being performed by JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver by accepting the JDBC call. Then the third step is the ODBC driver completes the request and sends responses to the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver. If you can see the previous slide, you can see the reverse arrow has also been there. So these are called as the responses. So whenever it is required, the response is required, then you need to go for that. Then fourth step is the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver converts the response into JDBC standards and displays the result to the requesting Java application. So both the ways the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver is being considered, because when you go for the forward direction, JDBC call is converted to ODBC, that is a database call. And when you go for the reverse way, that is fetching the answer, the ODBC or the database call is converted into JDBC call. Now coming to the advantages of type 1 driver. Now it represents a single driver implementation to interact with the different data stores. So we have only single driver named as JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver. Now that has been the main source for translation. So that is being able to connect to different data sources. Now second advantage is it allows to communicate with all the database supported by the ODBC driver. So that is the thing I was saying. When you see the architecture diagram, you have a database at the right hand side, and before that you have the ODBC driver. So whenever you have the database with ODBC driver installed, then such databases can be communicated with this JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver. Then it represents a vendor independent driver. So any vendor can use this particular driver. There is no restriction. So that's why it is called as vendor independent driver. Now coming to the disadvantages of type 1 JDBC driver. Now it decreases the execution speed due to a large number of translations, because you can see the architecture diagram, like Java application is there. Then we have a JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver, where your JDBC call has been handed over to the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver. Now the JDBC-ODBC Bridge Driver is translating the JDBC call to the native ODBC call. And again, we have one more layer called ODBC driver. So the native ODBC call is converted into native DBMS specific call. So like this, number of translations are going on. in between. So obviously the speed will be getting decreased. Now one more disadvantage is depends on the ODBC driver. So already I was saying that wherever you have the database and which database you are connecting, if that particular thing is supporting your ODBC driver, then only the first type 1 driver will be existing. And here thus Java applications also become indirectly hooked into the ODBC drivers. So here we are purely depending on the ODBC driver in order to communicate with the databases. Now requires the ODBC binary code or ODBC client library that must be installed on every client. So if you want to communicate with the database which is supporting ODBC driver, now you as a client or on all client systems, one file that is a ODBC binary code to be installed on every client. Now you imagine there will be n number of clients. Suppose lakhs of clients are there, thousands of servers obviously need to be there, and in every client you are going on installing. That's a very tedious task. And if any upgradation for the particular driver or the binary code is being done, then again you need to reinstall in each and every client. So that is one of the disadvantage. Now here it is using one package called JNI, Java Native Interface Package, to make the ODBC calls. Because you can see in the architecture diagram, JDBC call is converted into native ODBC call, and again it is converting into native database specific calls. So here native is a thing which is apart from Java language. The other languages are called as native. It's like C and C++. So here there is a provision to make a call to a C function from your Java program or C++ function from a Java program. So here, in order to do that, we require a package called JNI, and in that we do have class and methods for translation. So it's mandate like we need to use JNI when you develop such applications. So this has been considered as one of the disadvantage. Now I hope I have given some input on type 1 driver, its architecture, the advantages and disadvantages of the type 1 driver. So if you like this video, please subscribe, do comment, and share it to your friends. Thank you.